Foreign reserves rise by $140.9 million. SEC moves to protect investor using digital assets classification. Oil prices steady as third storm in month takes aims at USA. This is Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Federal government says it has released the timetable for categories of businesses to register as the portal for the registration of prospective beneficiaries for the Survival Fund opens Monday. A statement issued in Abuja by the Project Delivery Office states that the portal, which opens at 10 p.m., will have educational institutions as the first category of beneficiaries to register to the COVID-19 pandemic. The viability of the external sector in the year is expected to deteriorate given the present worsening current account balance and depletion of external reserves driven largely by decelerating export receipts, particularly oil. Meanwhile, latest figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that Nigeria's foreign reserves rose by $140.9 million from $35.67 billion as of December 1st to $35.81 billion as of December 17. The reserves rose by $65 million from $35.59 billion as of August 20 to $35.66 billion as of August 27. It had earlier lost $278.91 million from $35.87 billion on July 29th to $35.59 billion on August 19th, after which it returned to a growth path. The CBN says in its economic monthly report for May that the performance of the external sector continued to be undermined by the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequently partial lockdown of economies globally. Let's now see how the Naira is exchanging for other international currencies. My colleague Muplang Dakok earlier spoke with Mohammed Shitu Kabiru, the national president of Cowpea Farmers, on how farming communities are confronting the challenge of flooding and steps being taken to mitigate the effects.
Floods have ravaged a good number of farms across the country due to irregular rainfall patterns that have caused farmers to keep counting their losses. The River Niger has since overflown its banks, submerging farms and its wake causing socio-economic devastation, posing threats to food security. Business Express will today seek to hear from the farming community how it is confronting this calamity and steps being taken to mitigate the effects so far. I'm joined by Mohammed Shitu Kabiru, the National President of Cowpea Farmers, Processors and Marketers of Nigeria. You're welcome to Business Express.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, Can you tell us about the floods and what they have done to farms and to farmers?
It's a great devastating effect
Okay.
Towards our economy.
Okay.
In the sense that as at May, there was a forecast that about 102 local governments will be affected in this coming rain season, and that we could see now that Arugungu, that's towards River Niger, a lot of flood rise. Farmers have lost money in this flood, and we can see that about 5 billion naira, according to the statistic that we have just been seeing, will have been lost to this flood, and it's still counting.
Okay.
And this brings us to say, as a country and as people, it's time we now look at technology in order to be able to avert this type of trend.
Yes, I was going to ask you what needs to be done or what you are doing. But before then, what parts of the country are mostly affected? Talking about farmers.
For now, the farmers from Kebbi,
Okay.
from Sokoto Rima River to Kebbi towards is now coming down to Pategi in Niger State, and that's how it will flow. And then all the farmers around there, are more of rice, and that is the belt that we have. At least 60% of our rice that is being promoted today in Nigeria coming out from, and that is why the devastating effect is so high, because we have hope that by this time we will get a bumper harvest, because even some have already ready for harvest. It's just 1-2 weeks for them to harvest, and then
Okay, what are farmers like you doing to mitigate the impact, to reduce it to the barest minimum?
Like us, we are now trying to see that we as quickly as possible, provide farm input that for dry season farming. That's why we whatever God do, things will come better. Now we have opportunity to make sure that we provide input for these farmers to quickly go back. We question the effect by pushing them back into dry season farming, which will start any moment from now. So if we can give them the farm input, that's the fertilizer, the seed, and other items, so this will quickly quicken the effect. It will, by dry season farming, we may be able to make back what we have lost in this wet season.
Okay. So what lessons are there? What lessons do you think that farmers like you must have learned from the warning of the floods and then the flood itself?
It's a great lesson for the farmers. The lesson we have learned is that it's time we urge ourselves, the farmers and the government, to come together and build up infrastructures that will curb this, because it has to happen. It will be yearly, because we pray for rain and it will come. And you will have, so for us not to get erosion, there are infrastructure that must put in place, maybe damming it in some area and then putting structures that will not allow it to affect our farm. And secondly, we will also now have to look at it that we must leave some meters between the riverside and where we are planting. So that will also be one of our lessons that we have to learn now. And we want to quickly urge the federal government that it is time now that we have not served disaster from the Benue River. We should start preparing now as quickly as possible to see that we avert the effect that will also affect the Benue rivers as time go, where you get flood up to Lokoja and down south. So these are lessons. This lesson we've learned are now helping us to also talk to our farmers to say, look, in the next wet season, this is how we must go about it. And then the government must also quickly come into the rescue by putting infrastructures that will divert this water and dam them in another area, so that even when the wet season, dry seasons come, we'll have those water to also use for our dry season farming. And as a beans farmer, we waited on the forecast because we quickly approached Agricultural Research Institute, Zaria.
Okay.
That is why you don't have problem with beans, because we quickly advise our farmers that by now they should have planted as far back as July and August. And we said the institute said no, don't plant. There will be no rain.
Okay, they should wait.
The rain is coming around September, so wait till September middle to October, and that has really helped the beans farmers in Gombe, in Maiduguri, in all other areas in Niger State. So we have learned our lesson. We keep on learning lesson. Then we urge our farmers to now depend on technology, because technology is helping us now, and we must also key to the technology to help us.
I was going to go to that technology, but I'll still leave it a little. Let's talk about insurance. To what extent do you think farmers in Nigeria know about insurance, and to what extent have they keyed into insurance policies and premiums for their farms?
From the Anchor Borrower program of CBN, they have opened our eye into, because you cannot key into Anchor Borrower program without having National Agricultural Insurance Company insuring you. So insurance has been part. And that is why even what has the flood now, we know that they will be compensated. So we know that there's already insurance. So it's something that we have took into cognizance in our daily affairs, especially as farmers.
Okay. You talked about encouraging your farmers or farmers like you to go into dry season farmers. Do you think that yearly farming can help to solve the problem of flooding and even food shortages, like farming in both wet and dry seasons?
That, as we have the population, and we must go into that. Today, when we had COVID, we could not import any food. But because we have already been they are promoting rice farmers, and today we have enough rice that the local production can give to Nigeria. That is why you can only hear that the food is costly, but you cannot hear that we don't have food. There are countries today that are lacking food and running helter-skelter, like the Thailand say we won't sell rice to any country, and we Nigerians say we don't even need your rice. We have already started our own local rice. And therefore, this, if it has greatly affected Nigerians to have enough food. And for food security, like rice have 4 seasons. You can do it in a season. You can plant rice 4 times. And so also beans. You can plant beans 2-3 times in a season. So you can see that we have, and if being promoted by government, we have enough that to feed our nation. We don't need to import food.
Okay, before I let you go, lastly, the topic that you're very interested about, the use of technology by farmers. What exactly are farmers doing in terms of technology, and what more needs to be done?
I think we have not started, and we will urge ourselves and urge the government, urge the people that are hearing us today, that it's time that we embrace technology.
Okay.
Like today, China is proud in that they are going to feed the world after COVID. Because of what? They've started using drone to even plant, to even wet their farm. So they have even gone beyond using tractor to spread, to plant, so we have to also join where a farmer can sit in his comfort farm and be able to farm 10, 20, 5,000 hectares of farm. Can we do that here? No. The technology is not here for us. It's whole and this thing. And if you are talking of tractor, how many farmers have tractors?
Probably because we have more of small-scale farmers than the large-scale farmers.
The population is getting larger, and we must promote our agriculture. We have nothing that God has given us. Dubai, look at that. They had, we have our own soil, we have the ocean, and they think and they come up with tourism. So Nigeria has nothing to offer to world than agriculture, and agriculture is the bane of the whole world. One, with agriculture, we have raw material to sell to the world. With agriculture, we have enough food. In fact, after COVID, I was usually telling the world that Nigeria will feed the world because we have the green land. If some country have Nigerian, even some country will be thinking of invading the country and take over the country because we are not using the resources that God give to us. Agriculture is the way, and the only way to promote agriculture where the young people in Nigeria can go into, and that is the only way we can create employment opportunity. But we must go technologically. We must be able not to use hoe because nobody finishes NYSC that you now tell to go and carry hoe. But when it is technology, they will be very happy, and before you know it, you will have all our youth being employed, and you won't have all this. Before I go, I also urge Nigerians that it's time we clear our forest,
Okay.
and then put up crops, that is cash crop, and allow each local government to come up with cash crop, and then we sponsor processing, because what even stop people from farming again is processing. So we must, as a government, put a deliberate policy with which to promote each of the cash crop, like or a forest, clear it, put cocoa, put cola nut, and put processing there. Young people will go there and farm. Then you won't have insurgency around there. In Kaduna, those forests around Kaduna, clear it, put up other like cashew, like that. Then put processing plant there. Young people like me will go there, and you won't have insurgency using our forest. Go to Maiduguri and clear Gomarabi. Put Gomarabi in Sambisa forest.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed Shitu Kabiru. Yeah. I know if I let you go, you will continue to talk for so long. You're passionate about it. Yes. And I like the fact that you're optimistic that Nigeria is going to feed the world. So we'll feed the world very soon. Yes. So, thank you. Moving on.
The federal government has appealed to ICT company Huawei to help it expand the country's rural telephony spread. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed made the appeal when she received the Managing Director and Nigeria representative of Huawei Technologies Company Nigeria Limited, while noting that government wants rural telephony expanded to bridge the gap between urban educational systems and what obtains in rural areas. She says government's desire to expand rural telephony is based on the fact that the Nigerian education system has been negatively impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. She also urged the technologies company to help with affordable solutions that would guarantee digital value additions and accessibility to the Nigerian rural communities. Gold prices edged higher on Monday, helped by a softer dollar, while investors looked forward to speeches by Federal Reserve policymakers due this week for further clues on the U.S. Central Bank's approach to inflation. A total turnover of 1.139 billion shares worth 12.692 billion naira in 17,109 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange. Details with Bosede Ebo.
The NSE All-Share Index depreciated by 0.08%, while market capitalization appreciated by 0.1% to close the week at 25,572.57 and 13.3 trillion naira. All other indices finished lower, with the exception of NSE Main Board, NSE Pension, NSE Insurance, NSE Merry Growth, NSE Consumer Goods, NSE Lotus 2 and NSE Industrial Goods Index, which appreciated, while the NSE ASM Index closed flat. At a turnover of 1.1 billion shares worth 12.6 billion naira in 17,109 deals were traded in the week by investors on the floor of the exchange. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 870.3 million shares valued at 7.8 billion naira traded in 9,427 deals. Industrial goods followed with 62.6 million shares worth 1.1 billion in 1,557 deals. The third place was the ICT industry with a turnover of 50.8 million shares worth 2.5 billion naira in 619 deals. Trading in the top three equities were FBN Holdings PLC, Guaranty Trust Bank PLC and Access Bank PLC. They mutually accounted for 353 million shares worth 4 billion naira in 3,095 deals. A total of 143,690 units of exchange-traded products, ETPs, valued at 1.2 billion naira, were traded in 19 deals, as well as 18,803 units of federal government bonds valued at 19.5 million naira, traded in 8 deals. Summary of price changes saw 32 equities appreciated in price, 31 equities depreciated, while 100 equities remained unchanged.
And on the capital market, transactions at the close of Monday trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange ended in positive territory. The NSE All-Share Index rose by 0.01% to close at 25,574.35 basis points as traders exchanged 196 million shares valued at 1.7 billion naira in 3,542 deals. Market capitalization stood at 13.3 trillion naira. Hong Kong listed shares of Standard Chartered and HSBC tumbled on Monday following a report that they allegedly moved large sums of suspicious funds over to Bosede Ebo for more.
Global markets opened trading of 21st September mostly bearish amid various factors. European stocks withdrew Monday as allegations surrounding bank dealings and rising coronavirus infections weighed on market sentiment around the world. The country's benchmark FTSE 100 dropped more than 3% on the fear, CAC 40 3%, and DAX also depreciated 3%. Stocks in Asia were mostly negative as Hong Kong listed shares of Standard Chartered and Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation Limited, HSBC, fell Monday following reports that they allegedly moved large sums of suspicious funds. According to reports, the move came after the banks, among several global lenders, were identified as having allegedly moved suspicious funds over a period of nearly 2 decades. The report cited confidential documents submitted by banks to the U.S. government. U.S. stock futures also fell sharply early Monday as a number of factors rattled traders amid a 3-week losing streak for the markets. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures lost 530 points. The move indicated an opening drop of 470 points. S&P 500 futures lost 1.6% and Nasdaq 100 futures also fell 1.3%. Africa stocks are not left out of this wave of global crisis as South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Tunisia's Tunidex and Namibia's overall index opened trade negative. Nairobi's All-Share resumed positive, while Ghana's GSE Composite was marginally positive. Bosede Ebo, for Business Express.
This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube and on the NTA's channels. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag #BizEx. Business Express returns tomorrow morning. Stay safe.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you in your living room, office, everywhere and anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview UK channel 264, or you can download www.visiontv.co.uk. App for iOS or Android, Intelsat 901 degrees. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
This is the network service of the NTA.